Today we've got the new Stealth Pro 2 from Turtle Beach, and this one made a very strong first impression. The build quality here, the way everything feels, is very high-end. This is the best build quality I've seen yet on a gaming headset, outside of maybe the Maxwell 2, which, sorry Turtle Beach, but that feels crazy to say about a Turtle Beach product. There's some really impressive multi-system wireless functionality that we haven't seen before, but there's also a few odd choices. Unlike the SteelSeries Omni that we just looked at, you need to be careful about which version you buy. I had a lot of questions for Turtle Beach, most of which were answered by "we're working on it." So I'm going to review this as I received it, and I will note on screen the things they're working on. This comes priced at $349.99 US. So the question is, does the sound quality, mic quality, and day-to-day usability measure up to this insane build quality? We'll put it up against the usual suspects in the wireless space to see where it stacks up. First things first, this comes in a zippered hard-shell travel case with room for everything inside. I love this inclusion. I don't think we see this enough from headsets at the high end of the price spectrum. Secondly, the build here. Wow. This is the Xbox version, which we'll talk more about in a sec. So this has silver accents instead of the copper colored from the PC version. As best I can tell, this is largely a metal frame. This headband is coated in what feels like a high-density silicone, and the support is provided by this mesh insert, similar to what we'd see on like the Apple AirPods Max. There are adjustments here for height. These are very strong. The swivel feels very good. It's a really clean, minimal design. Does not feel at all like a gaming product. The ear cup material feels like a soft touch plastic. They do show oil, unfortunately, but they clean up pretty easy. The outside of the ear cups are a gunmetal color with a pretty stealthy Turtle Beach logo. These do have shallow concentric ridges that are really reminiscent of the first Arctis Nova Pro. This design is tougher to keep clean because stuff gets trapped in there and it's hard to get out. Only the side that covers the battery can be removed, so I wouldn't expect any like aftermarket customizable covers for these. All the buttons, the dials, the wheels feel very solid, very tactile, very well laid out. Pads here are a sport mesh over memory foam, really soft, not rough or scratchy at all. Openings are 65mm by 45. Depth is like 22mm at the front and 28 at the deepest point, which is right behind your earlobe, so these are angled. Really unique shape, really comfortable pads, and they use easy twist locks to remove and replace. I like these a lot. All this premium build does come at a cost though. This weighs 385 grams without the mic, 396 with. That puts it a touch heavier than the Elite and like 50 grams heavier than the Omni. If you spotted the headband early on as a potential issue, you're not wrong. What clamping force there is limited to the bottom of the ear cups. It's pretty minimal, and that's great. But that leaves the headband to do the bulk of the heavy lifting. Like, you can feel the weight of this headset hanging from this headband, and sadly this is just not very comfortable for me long term. Your mileage and your amount of hair may vary, but I find these start to get uncomfortable for me right around the 45-minute mark, and they start to need frequent adjustments either forward or back to help alleviate that pressure on top of my head. As it stands, I really hope there's an aftermarket solution at some point that can help distribute this weight across a bigger area than this 1.5-inch wide mesh. For feature set, this all gets pretty muddy because instead of opting for an all systems covered approach like the Omni and the Elite, these are split into two distinct versions, and it's really important that you carefully pick the one you need for your use case because at least currently there's a lot of fine print here in terms of how these work. Both versions include this base station transmitter and then a smaller USB-A transmitter for your alternate use case. This is great because you don't have to move anything from one room to the other if you're moving from like your desk to the living room, and unlike the Omni, you don't have to have everything plugged into just one main base station. Their killer feature is what they call Crossplay 2.0 that allows you to wirelessly hop between these two different transmitters, but you're not limited to just these two. For $35 a pop, you can buy up to 2 additional transmitters that will allow you to wirelessly cycle between 4 different sources with the press of a button on the headset. As long as those other sources aren't an Xbox, the smaller transmitters only support PC and PlayStation. We do have Bluetooth 5.3 here. It's LE and has LC3+, which is low enough latency to use for gaming with no perceivable latency at all. It is simultaneous, so you can mix your Bluetooth with any one single 2.4 gigahertz source, and the mixing is really nice. You have a volume control for your main source on the left ear cup and a separate Bluetooth volume control on the right. A couple caveats here. This Bluetooth is not multi-point, so you can't be paired to more than one Bluetooth source at a time. Once you're paired to one source, it will not go into pairing mode again. So say you're connected to a handheld via Bluetooth for audio and you want to use the Turtle Beach app on your phone to change the EQ. You have to turn the Bluetooth off on your handheld, then connect to your phone, make the adjustment, disconnect from your phone, and then reconnect the Bluetooth to the handheld. With something like the Omni, you don't have to do this, but I will say that the Bluetooth connection to my Ally X sounds a lot better and more stable on the Stealth Pro 2 than it does on the Omni. The other thing with Bluetooth is that there is support for LDAC, that's Sony's high-res Bluetooth codec, but that's only available on the PC PlayStation version, not at all on the Xbox version. A really big one is that while you do have game chat mix with dedicated on-head control, this feature only supports the version that you pick, meaning if you get the Xbox version, you do not have support for that on the PC and vice versa. I mentioned that the smaller transmitters currently do not support Xbox, and that holds true even on the Xbox version. So if you get the Xbox version and you're using crossplay, the big transmitter where your spare battery lives has to be on the Xbox, and the smaller transmitter will go to your PC. You can set the big transmitter to PC mode if you want to have access to your spare battery at your desktop, but then you have no support for Xbox at all. Also, using it like that in the PC mode does not get you access to the PC only features like Bluetooth, LDAC, and game chat mix on the PC. And if you buy the PC PlayStation version to get those features, there is currently no way to add in support for an Xbox, meaning there's no great solution for someone that prioritizes PC at the desk and then plays on Xbox in the living room. You see what I mean by all the fine print? Now, outside of all that, there is really solid active noise cancellation. It's really good and it's adjustable either via the desktop or the mobile app. But there's a caveat here too. At the time of this video, there is currently no way to use active noise cancellation and side tone where you can hear your own voice back in your own ear cup through your mic at the same time. Hopefully that's something they can solve with the future firmware update. This does have an infinite battery system where one lives in the headset and the other is charging in the base. Turtle Beach says each is rated up to 40 hours. They're not super clear on what that use case entails. They do hot swap though, so they'll reconnect automatically after the battery swap. Notably missing here are any kind of aux or 3.5mm connections. You can play and charge via USB cable though, which is nice. The included cable is USB-A to USB-C for the headset side. So if your device you want to play wired to is USB-C only, you'll need to source an adapter, which is not included. Stealth Pro 2 is now high-res wireless certified, so it does 24-bit 96 kilohertz over the 2.4 wireless connection. And luckily, any of the transmitters are able to support this, provided your source device can. The main transmitter ring displays in purple when you're in the high-res mode and white the rest of the time. The drivers here are pretty crazy too. These are 60mm and they're two-way, so you have one big driver handling the low end and then a smaller driver taking care of the high end. These have a very fun amount of bass. You can actually feel them moving air from time to time, which is wild. With this design, they don't distort in the default EQ mode like the Turtle Beach signature sound preset, but this bass can be distracting for stuff like competitive FPS. It's a blast in single player stuff, like when you're on a lap course in Horizon 6, you feel the bass coming from the stands when you blow through the start finish line. It's pretty sick. Looking at the measurements, we have this cut in the top of the lower mids and a big bump as we approach the mid bass. We don't really see a lot in the way of sub bass extension, especially with the ANC on, which does change the tuning just a bit. Comes across pretty similar to me whether it's on or off. These don't really do sub bass. We have kind of a limited 10-band EQ in the Swarm software, and moving the 32 kilohertz slider down there does nothing. The slider at 63 kilohertz is going to directly control your bass, which you can boost up way higher than the stock tuning, though you will start to introduce some distortion at some of those higher levels. For music listening, the default tune is pretty bloated in that bass region for the majority of genres. I have mine set up like this for music listening, which basically just pulls it closer to the Harman curve in the low end and cuts that peak at 8K a little bit. Decent channel matching between left and right, and like the original Stealth Pros, these image very well for me in game, meaning I can easily hear where enemies are coming from. They still have their classic superhuman hearing mode, which basically reshapes the EQ to emphasize things like footsteps or gunshots, but I don't get a lot of use out of this. I personally find it easier to just set up a custom EQ for whatever game I'm playing. But you also have the option of Dolby Atmos headphone, which is what you want for content made specifically for that, like COD for instance. I really like the audio on offer here. It's not quite up to the same level of detail as the Maxwell 2 or the Elite. It does have more available bass than the Elite. Some might argue too much, but all in all, I like the sound better than the Omni and the Astro A50. The mic here on the Stealth Pro 2 is fine. It does have a pretty unique design. This is a 9mm capsule that's in like a little shock mount. This is completely removable and flip to mute, and there's a mic mute button on the headset itself, so plenty of flexibility. It is a unidirectional mic, and I don't think there's any way you wouldn't automatically know this was a wireless gaming headset. And again, we do have side tone here where you can hear your own voice back in your headsets. I think this works fine as a standalone feature. Just again, be aware that currently, if you're running active noise cancellation, you cannot have side tone active at the same time. And here it is just briefly against the Maxwell 2. This is running on the latest firmware, so this is much improved over the launch firmware for this and over the original Maxwell. It does still struggle with sounding stuffy or having unintended breath sounds, or both. Using the windscreen is a trade-off, so less stuffy with the windscreen, but also less unintended breath noises. It is a big improvement over the launch firmware. Still not my favorite mic out there. If you want to hear more detailed comparisons of the stuff that's not the Stealth Pro 2, check out the review I just did for the Omni. There's a huge mic test in the middle. And against the Astro A50 Gen 5, which you're hearing running with its broadcast EQ mode in G-Hub, this gets a lot of praise for being one of, if not the most natural sounding mic in all of wireless gaming. Running in this EQ mode does sound just a touch more processed, but I really enjoy the tone of this, and I think it's worth the trade-off if you're someone who naturally has some bass to their voice. Coming back to the Stealth Pro 2 after the Astro A50 is probably going to be pretty jarring. In comparison, this is going to sound very thin, very sharp. They do give us some custom mic EQ options in here. Normally, for my voice, I'd go with something like full, which you're hearing now, but I think what we're gaining in low end here is being offset by it sounding more processed. There are custom EQ options in here for the mic if there's something specific that you want to accentuate or dial back. The new SteelSeries Omni has an omnidirectional mic, and I think there's an immediate, pretty clear quality difference between this and the unidirectional mic on the Stealth Pro 2. If you want to hear more about this mic and its various modes, just check out the recent review I did. This is a big step forward for them. Really natural sounding, easily the best mic SteelSeries has done to date. Even versus something like their own Arctis Elite at $600, which you're hearing now. This was actually improved from the original Arctis Nova Pro wireless, but after these last few releases, it kind of falls down to middle of the pack for me. After listening to all of these back to back to back today, I think that leaves the Stealth Pro 2 in one of the lowest spots on this list today, neck and neck with the Maxwell 2. After that, I think it's a step up to the Arctis Elite, with the Omni and the Astro A50 vying for that top spot. The Stealth Pro 2 just really didn't impress me against most of the other options we have here today. That said, everybody's voice is different and everybody hears things differently, so let me know in the comments if there was anything here that really stood out to you as being particularly good or bad. I was surprised to see that the Stealth Pro 2 also has on-head beamform mics for the times when you're not using the boom mic, similar to what we see on the Elite and the Maxwell 2. These are omitted on the Omni, which I really didn't mind, but I'm sure somebody can find a use case for these, taking a quick call or whatever. It's a nice inclusion, but for any of your gaming or chat stuff, I would stick to the boom mic. All right, let's try to make some sense of all this. For the clear pros, the sound quality here is solid. The detail is good, the imaging is good. There's extra bass there if you want it, or you can alleviate that bass. It's got you covered either way. The mic quality is nothing special, but it's adequate for gaming, and there's plenty of functionality there, and you have on-head beamform mics as a fallback if you need them. From a build quality standpoint, it's top tier. Like, I can't see this thing breaking on you ever. Comfort, though, makes me sad, and it's one of those things you just have to try for yourself to see if it's going to be an issue for you. The way it handles multiple systems, the wireless switching, it's a really novel approach. The problem is that it's currently overshadowed by a lot of specifics and a lot of functionality that they really should have had ironed out before this launched. There may be a version that fits all your needs right now, or you might be in the camp where you're waiting on Turtle Beach to make good on certain features after the fact before it's a good fit for you. The base station is little more than a battery charger versus the more full-featured base stations you find on the Arctis stuff. I find it's really useful to have the mobile app tethered via Bluetooth on my phone while I'm playing to access EQ and settings quickly. But it does have an infinite battery system that works really well, and that alone puts it pretty far ahead of a lot of its competitors. You don't have access to nearly as many EQ presets as you do on the Arctis side, and the EQ here isn't in the same league as the EQ in Sonar. But you can use Sonar's EQ with this headset, and it's free. You're very limited on wired options and no support for full integration with a streaming mixer like a Go XLR. But play and charge is cool, and not needing everything tethered wired to a single base station is very cool. The idea of having separate wireless transmitters for all your devices is brilliant. It's tough for me to nail this down. This is something that for me has a lot of potential, and with everything being so expensive these days, is actually priced pretty competitively at $349.99 for what's on offer. If you're someone where the use case fits currently, you're in luck. If Turtle Beach makes good on everything they have planned, that would normally land this firmly in like top 3 wireless territory. But the weight and comfort issues could just be a flat out deal breaker depending on how this fits your head. We've seen aftermarket solutions for headbands before, and hopefully we see one for this one too. And that's it for this time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Stay up.